hands were once used for battle. Now they're but humble tools for peace.
Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in the first trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder. I am so excited about this movie. Thor Ragnarok is my favorite MCU film. I love the comics this movie's based on, and I cannot wait to share everything we noticed with all of you. We begin with the opening guitar notes of Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine, which is a perfect choice when you break down the lyrics and apply the meaning to Thor's journey. She's got a smile that, it seems to me, reminds me of childhood memories, where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. Sky, sky. Well done. Now these lyrics are because Thor did not have responsibilities when he was a child, and he's now trying to recapture those days by going into retirement. And we also see him as a child, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. Next lyric. Now and then when I see her face, she takes me away to that special place, and if I stare too long, I'd probably break down and cry. Cry, cry. Yep, yeah, you know the song, that's good. So, he's wistful for when his times were better. His planet is gone. Most of his Avengers friends are dead or gone, and he misses Jane.
She didn't dump me, you know. I dumped her. It's a mutual dumping.
Her hair reminds me of a warm, safe place where as a child I'd hide and pray for the thunder and the rain to quietly pass me by. His old hair has returned to the era when he lived in a warm, safe place. In the past, he relied on his power as a thunder god when people would pray to him to spare them from his storms. So in his mind, his hair is tied to his heyday as a god.
Please, kind sir, do not cut my hair.
And of course, all of these lyrics also apply to him missing Jane. And as we saw in Endgame, he still cares about her.
Oh, you know, Jane and I aren't even dating anymore, so...
And the bridge of the song is just Axl repeating, "Where do we go? Where do we go?" And that's where Thor's mind is in this. He seems to want to break away from the Guardians because he's not getting the love from them that he needs.
Not me. What? Just listening.
He has no idea where to go in his life or what to do. He's still in the middle of a rebellious stage and he has to grow up. So let's get into this trailer. We open with young Thor as we saw him in the flashback of Thor 1, now running through the woods to show him growing up. Now this might be part of a montage where Thor is running to get back into shape, or it might be kind of a dream that Thor is having, racing through his life, going on to the next stage. The next Thor is him as a teenager, dressed in his signature comic-accurate Jack Kirby costume from his first appearance. Ragnarok was incredibly loyal to Jack Kirby's designs for the character, lifting entire panels of Kirby comics for the art design, and this trailer just has Kirby written all over it. Now, if you remember, old Loki in the show Loki, played by Richard Grant, was wearing a comic-accurate costume as well, which is interesting. Maybe Thor and Loki used to dress like this when they were teenagers, and old Loki was just reverting to his original clothing. And then the running ends with how he was dressed in the first Thor movie with like shoulder-length hair, and those dyed blonde eyebrows that Kevin Feige says is the #1 thing he regrets deciding for that movie. He insisted that Thor's eyebrows be dyed blonde. Now in the next shot of Thor, we jump further forward in time, into Thor's final costume. He's wearing what looks like leather with fur shoulder pads, more like what he would have worn among the Norsemen when his godhood was in its heyday. But I'm going to talk about this scene later in the trailer. First, a little note about the comics these are based on. The story is based on a couple of different comic runs, but the main one was written by this guy, Jason Aaron. He wrote like a 100-issue long epic Thor story I highly recommend for you to read. If you've never read comics, it's a great place to start. The story shows him in ancient Norway partying with humans when he was a young man, and then goes throughout the rest of his life. The key villain in the arc is an alien named Gorr the God Butcher. TLDR on him is that he prayed to the gods to save his family. They didn't, and then he acquired a super powerful alien sword that allowed him to go through the cosmos killing gods. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's all you have to know, for now. Maybe more later, but for now, you're good. Then we see him burying Stormbreaker like a tree and going off to meditate. Very appropriate since the handle originally came from a talking tree, Groot. On Stormbreaker, there are a couple of runes. We can see the runes for Iwaz, symbolizing horses or transportation, Gibbo for gift, Hagalats for hail, Thorisats for Thor, Tivaz for the warrior god Tyr, and possibly an Othala symbolizing inheritance. With all these symbols together, we can translate it as Stormbreaker. He uses this weapon to travel and create storms, Thor's gifted weapon that he inherited as future king of the 9 realms. Now he's meditating at a reclusive place on a planet with what might be 2 or 3 suns, or maybe this is just a big ass moon. Now he's meditating because he's searching for his place in the cosmos. He used to find all the meaning in battle. There was always a fight to win, a kingdom to save. He tried to use the Guardians as his new Avengers, and it didn't work out. So now he's trying to find some inner peace. Hell, maybe he's trying to commune with Odin's spirit like he did in Ragnarok.
Are you Thor, the god of hammers?
Now, the way he's meditating looks reminiscent of a sage at an ashram, a spiritual monastery trying to cleanse his mind. Thor is wearing a top knot similar to what a sage would wear while praying. The location also reminded me of a spirit tree where Aboriginals would meditate in the Australian desert. Now, these trees often have wind chimes tied to their branches as a way of harmonizing the spirit and warding off evil spirits. Circe communes with Arishem under one of these in the Eternals. Then Thor has a kind of revelation, opening his ocean blue eyes like Don Draper, knowing what he needs to do next. And I think what he decides is this.
I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing, and it was everything that I thought it could be.
He just gets to go have fun and cruise the galaxy. Also notice you can still see the scar from his battle with Hela, and at some point Rocket must have provided him with a new eye because now they're both blue. The Marvel Studios logo is now silver, like the color of Gorr's skin, with what looks like stage lights reflecting off the top. There are also, how many lights?
4 lights!
Thanks, Picard, for that. Now this might reflect the new team that Thor is recruiting, him, Jane, Korg, and Valkyrie. Then we see him doing the battle rope workout to get back in shape after he let himself go in Avengers Endgame.
Give me a cuddly little rascal. Yeah, no, I'm good.
A few things to notice here. One, he's wearing a mesh back hat. Now, @HeadlessFan on Twitter pointed out that Vincent D'Onofrio in Adventures in Babysitting wears a hat just like this. In that movie, a little girl mistakes him for Thor.
Oh, Thor, mighty god of thunder.
His hat reads Strongest Avenger, but notice a couple things here. The hat is in the old Avengers font from when the book first started, and it looks like he scrawled Strongest on it in magic marker as a way to motivate himself.
Strongest Avenger.
Access denied.
Strongest Avenger.
He's using the chains from an imprisoned giant. Now, this could be an ancient god who was imprisoned and killed. At first, I thought it maybe could be Surtur, but the shape of the head is wrong. These could also be the storm or mountain gods of Jotunheim. This could also be foreshadowing the god-killing spree that Gorr is going to go on later in the movie. Then we see him post-meditation, revealing his new look to the people on this planet. Now, this is a throwback to a 90s version of Thor called Thunderstrike. Basically, for a while, another guy took over as Thor. He was an Earthman named Eric Masterson. After Thor reclaimed the role, Eric became a hero named Thunderstrike, named after his hammer. Just as in this movie, we're going to see multiple Thors teaming up using different hammers. Now, on this planet, we see these primitive blue people with spears, presumably fighting against a more technologically advanced people with lasers who we don't see, we just see the lasers. Now, it looks like Thor arrived there with the Guardians, and a few seconds later in the trailer, we see him like walking away, like he's going, nah, I gotta think about this. So he leaves, meditates by the tree, and realizes he wants to look like he's going to a Def Leppard concert. Now, a lot of people notice that his vest is red, and it looks like something that he could have borrowed from Star-Lord. So maybe he leaves the battle dressed in his typical Thor outfit, meditates, then goes back to the Benatar to find some new threads. This would also explain why Peter is rolling his eyes. First, the guy tries to take over leadership of his team, now he's stealing his clothes. And the t-shirt he's wearing, I could be wrong about this, but it looks like it's a map of the 9 realms, the way he drew them for Jane, showing the world tree. We also get a good look at the new Guardians lineup, which has changed slightly since Endgame. Groot is a little older now, starting to fill out, and Nebula and Kraglin appear to have rejoined the team. Now, it's cool that Kraglin joined the team because he's using Yondu's fin and arrow, and Yondu was an original member of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics. And then we see the Guardians finally dumping Thor back on Sakaar. Why Sakaar? Well, Doug, I think it's because Korg went back there after Endgame and helped run the new government. Remember, the Grandmaster was overthrown in the Ragnarok end credits scene.
This revolution has been a huge success. Yay us. Pat on the back. Pat on the back.
And when we first met Korg, he was trying to start a revolution.
Hardly anyone turned up, except for my mum and her boyfriend, who I hate.
Now, Thor probably wanted to go to Sakaar because it has wormholes to places all over the galaxy, and he also wanted to travel with his friend Korg. Notice that Korg has apparently been there a while. He's now wearing these Jack Kirby-era pants with the lightning bolts, very Sakaaran. Then we see this boat being pulled away from New Asgard. I'm going to talk about New Asgard a little bit later. And I actually think this boat shot is from way later in the movie. The official synopsis says that after Gorr the God Butcher starts to attack other gods, Thor recruits Korg, Jane, and Valkyrie to help him. Now, this boat is being pulled by flying goats, just like how Thor's chariot was pulled in Norse mythology. On the boat, we do see Thor, Valkyrie, and Korg, and my favorite, all-time favorite, most favorite Easter egg in this trailer. There is a neon sign that reads Cocktails and Dreams, which is the name of the bar that Tom Cruise starts at the end of the movie Cocktail. Now, I'd like to think this is Thor's private ship that we see later in the trailer, and that he's just a huge fan of Tom Cruise's worst movie.
No way, Mission Impossible was way worse.
What? Which one?
All of them. I didn't get what was going on.
He's always running and then falling. He almost dies, but he never dies. The movie's silly. All right, we're gonna have to talk about that some other time. Let me know if you agree with Doug on Mission Impossible down in the comments. Moving on. Next we see Thor in what might be a pirate ship that he's commandeered, judging by the corpses on the boat. This might be how he acquired the goat boat to begin with, after killing this Kraken in the background. The Kraken might have also been an early victim of Gorr the God Butcher. It could have been a sea god that he killed in the name of vengeance. Now I think this little pirate adventure has to be a nod to writer, director, actor, plus visionary Taika Waititi's recent pirate show Our Flag Means Death, where he plays Blackbeard. Like maybe they thought, screw it, let's just use the set twice. Now this part will be about Thor's walkabout adventure phase, when he's exploring the galaxy's planets and its women. Right here we see what appears to be Olympus, and this streak of light heading toward it is either Thor's boat or the villain Gorr the God Butcher ready to live up to his name. So Thor is traveling through space on his boat using Stormbreaker to open Bifrost so he can just sit back and enjoy his retirement.
I would do nothing.
Then we see the inside of Olympus with these lightning bolts zigzagging around until one is caught by Zeus himself, played by Russell Crowe, as he addresses his people. I think this would be a great time for Gorr the God Butcher to attack. Imagine if he was strong enough to take down frickin' Zeus, king of the Greek gods. Introducing Russell Crowe to the MCU just to immediately kill him off would also be a great way to show how powerful Gorr is. Also, I just want to say, Thor wears a lot of different outfits in this trailer, but this one is my favorite. The brightly colored armor is very Jack Kirby, the design is very retro, and just a lot of fun. I think that he actually gets this armor made on Sakaar after he's dropped off there because it fits in so well with the design aesthetic on that world. He's really happy to see Korg here, so I'm going to throw out a few theories. Later in the trailer we do see 4 figures walking into Olympus who could be Thor, Korg, Jane, and Valkyrie. So maybe they all traveled here together from New Asgard to warn Zeus and the other gods about Gorr. Or maybe Korg was spending time on Olympus and he was just reunited with Thor. In fact, if he was spending time on Olympus, that could explain the lightning on his pants. Now this shot shows Thor and Korg overlooking what you may think is a monster, but it's actually a god called Falagar the Behemoth. This panel is actually taken straight from the comics. Falagar was one of Thor's friends, and you can really see the hurt on his face here as he realizes that Gorr the God Butcher is not messing around. Now, I think this happens a little later in the movie, after he reunites with Korg and is trying to warn the other gods about Gorr. So he goes to warn his friend Falagar, who has already been killed. Then we see New Asgard, which is thriving under the leadership of King Valkyrie. It's become a major tourist destination. Now you'll remember they settle on this city of Tonsberg, which is featured in Thor 1's flashback, and it's also where the Red Skull found the Tesseract in First Avenger. In this first shot, we see cruise ships with what looks like Volstagg painted on the side. There's already real-life merch and mugs that say New Asgard is a big tourist destination. This van says New Asgard Tours with Mjolnir on the back window. So, I have a theory about that. I think that the remnants of Mjolnir haven't been moved since Hela broke the hammer, and that it's just sitting there and it's become a tourist spot for New Asgard. So this van would drive you out to see Thor's old hammer. And my theory goes that Jane is on this tour, and the hammer speaks to her and reforms because it sees that she's worthy to be the new Thor. See, in the comics, something similar happens. Thor becomes unworthy to wield the hammer. Jane is suffering from cancer, and so the hammer chooses her. The hammer is actually imbued with a sentient storm, and it's destroyed during the Jason Aaron run. Comics are weird, that's not important. The point is that Jane having cancer and being Thor is a great story in the comics, not going to spoil it, you should really read it. Also, some of the buildings now have gold plating, showing that Asgard is regaining some of its wealth and power. It's slowly becoming the place that it originally was. Now, if you're a friend of the channel, then you know that in Spider-Man No Way Home, a news ticker said that there is political turmoil in New Asgard. Now, something similar happened in the comics, when Asgard was afloat over a small town in Oklahoma and the government ends up ordering an invasion of Asgard. So I'm wondering if the political turmoil is not among Asgardians. It's about how the world governments are interacting with these gods among them. And the idea of humans thinking they don't need gods or gods are trouble also aligns perfectly with the philosophy of Gorr the God Butcher. We see Valkyrie in a boring meeting about sustainable energy with reps from various countries, including, judging by the flags, Italy, China, Mexico, and what I think is Taika Waititi's native New Zealand. And just look how bored she is. She's back to drinking heavily, chewing on a toothpick, which is probably from one of these empty martini glasses, and in the background we see her assistant, Meek, shaking up something. Probably a fresh martini for her.
Oh, Mick's dead.
Oh.
Yeah, and I accidentally stomped on him on the bridge. I've just felt so guilty. I've been carrying him around all day.
Meek is a lot taller now, but this is also true in the comics. As an insect, Meek starts as a small larva and grows larger.
Oh, Mick, you're alive! He's alive, guys.
Now, in this wide shot of Olympus, we see a statue of Zeus at the center. This is interesting because statues were very important in Thor Ragnarok. Loki builds a statue of himself. Grandmaster builds statues of himself and his champions. Odin has murals telling his lies all over his throne room.
Proud to have it, shamed of how he got it.
Statues are used as a way for people in authority to cement their power by controlling their own legend. This is exactly what Gorr the God Butcher is fighting against. He's saying that gods don't actually help people and that they're only in it for their own self-aggrandizement. And this statue of Zeus is a perfect example of that. Then Star-Lord gives this speech to Thor about looking at the people you love.
You ever feel lost? Just look into the eyes of the people that you love.
But now, everybody Thor loves is dead. He has no one to look at, which is opening the door for him and Jane to be reunited. Also, notice that Chris Pratt is wearing his facial hair the way it is right now as he's filming Guardians 3. So this is the look Star-Lord is going to have in the new movie. And the trailer ends with Mjolnir, now repaired, returning to the hand of Jane Foster. Notice all the cracks and repairs also give it the look of lightning. So Thor sees her and is shocked to see that she is the new Thor. But also, notice the fight in the background. This is on Earth. There are cars everywhere. This is the battle that Thor was walking through earlier in this trailer. I think that this is Gorr or his spider minions attacking New Asgard. Jane just got the hammer, or she's just joined the fight. Or maybe she's been at this a while and she's been the new Thor on Earth, but Thor didn't know this because he was out exploring the cosmos. So then maybe Thor and Korg traveled to New Asgard just as Gorr attacks. This is why Valkyrie decides to leave her post and help him, to fight the people who just attacked her home. There's also another possibility here, which might be a bit of a reach, but hey, you know what, why not? The sword that Gorr uses is called the All Black. It's this kind of really tough goo that can be shaped into different objects. The All Black is actually billions of years old. It's like a dark, malevolent entity. It was carved into a sword by Null, who in the comics is the god of the symbionts, like Venom. It's even said that the symbionts were originally made from the All Black. So ironically, Gorr is using the god of the symbionts to kill other gods. These monsters in this fight could also be an extension of the All Black, basically an army of rampaging symbionts set loose in the MCU. And we know this is technically possible since Venom did appear in the MCU technically in a couple different post-credit scenes. And I happen to know that a little baby Venom was left behind. Well, that's all the Easter eggs that we found, but if you found any, don't keep it a secret. Let us know in the comments below, at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. We do this kind of stuff all the time. We have a lot of fun. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you get the alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.